Well, welcome everyone to the Decentralized Consciousness podcast. Today on the podcast, I have Alex. Alex, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, I would say, because I'm really happy to be here with you and to share that, little time on soul mapping, or how can we call that? I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Me too. So, Alex, we met because I actually had a couple of friends separately send me recommendations to listen to your podcast, which is Wildlife, the Unschooling podcast. And I listened to your latest episode with Seb Bunny, and Seb has actually been on the podcast as well. He was part of the conscious parenting series that I did last year. And I listened to that podcast, and as soon as I did, I knew that I wanted to speak to you because, well, first of all, even before the podcast, I'm super interested in what unschooling is. I'm getting very close to pulling the trigger on taking my son out of daycare and starting homeschooling or unschooling with him. And so I was interested in unschooling to begin with, but then to listen to your latest episode with Seb, I mean, that went on some deep subjects. It was a really fun listen. So yeah, let's begin by talking a little bit about your adventure into starting up the podcast and how that's all been going for you.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So starting that podcast, I really don't know how that happened, to be honest. I just had that intuition feeling, this reoccurring message for me to put out my knowledge, my word, or whatever you want to call it. And I started a blockchain podcast maybe a year or 2 years prior. And I had the feeling like podcasting is quite fun if you do it on your own terms, first of all, and on topics you are really interested in. And so I felt like, okay, I've been in so many different positions in my life, from editor-in-chief to ghostwriter to whatever, but it's always related to language and to how people communicate, because communication is a very important thing, I guess. So I thought, okay, I like podcasting. I just need the perfect topic, and I didn't want anyone to talk me into doing it a certain way or whatever. So I was just me and me doing it. And I need to say, I learned tons. And you talked to me, you told me before we started recording that that you like to go with the flow and to see what's coming up in very authentic and real connections between human beings. And this is what I'm doing. I never had a real plan or anything like that. I'm never preparing questions for my guests or nothing. I just, like you are doing it. You're meeting people you're inspired by. Same for me. I invite them to my podcast and I just want to know what they are up to. And I just hope that if anybody listens and feels like, okay, this is what I needed to hear to take the next step, to feel more empowered, or to start whatever is awaiting on their path. Because if I feel like there are so many parents out there that are really, really interested in unschooling and homeschooling, but they don't really know how that might look like in real life and how it feels and what is actually happening to yourself as a parent, because so many people are always concentrating on, what are we doing with the kids? Yeah, but the bigger question is, are we capable of unschooling our kids if we are not unschooling and deschooling ourselves? So I figured out over the last months that unschooling is a nice thing, but more important is, and this is what I'm concentrating on for the next couple of months, I guess, what is happening with the parents. It's a it's a very interesting path to go down, the unschooling rabbit hole. And I think we're not only doing it for our kids, but for ourselves as well. And this is what I'm doing. I really have no better explanation than I'm just following my intuition and heart.
Yeah, amazing. It's really, really inspiring. And I feel very, very similarly. And I think that I actually have a lot of, I have a lot of things that I needed to work through personally before I was prepared emotionally and spiritually, physically. Um, and then I think rationally as well, just how I would organize my day or how I plan to organize my day, because I think that being with your children 24/7, it's become quite a foreign concept. It's just really sad to consider. But you did talk about this on your latest episode with Seb too, where I think that and the money is a big thing. I mean, we, as much as we would want to spend time with our kids, we have to go and work, and we feel like the only way that we can survive is by basically sending our kids off to a school or to a daycare or something. And, oh man, it's and what it's the attitude or the like the emotions and the fears that it is bred around. Oh my gosh, you're going to be with your kids 24/7. It's almost like we have this expectation for how an adult should live and how a child should live, and yet the two should never come together unless they're in a licensed institution like a school with licensed people who are trained to be with a child 24/7. And when my son was born in 2020, I was just kind of going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole myself. I got this overwhelming, powerful sense that this little thing that I was holding in my arms was the same as me. We were exactly the same. The only thing is I had more time in physicality. And I think that we tend to forget this over time as our kids get older, and we feel like they have all these expectations from the world. Are they learning fast enough? How are they comparing to their peers? Are they making friends? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. It's just so many expectations. And then as a parent, it's like, am I even qualified to teach them all of these things? It's what a mess we're coming from in the old paradigms. And so when I said earlier that I'm gearing up or I'm getting ready to take my son out of daycare, it's because I am doing everything in my power to sit with all of the fears that come in from projections from other people, expectations from society, my own expectations. Am I good enough to do this? Can I actually spend all this time with my 4-year-old son? I mean, that he's a lot. And I think that when you say that it is just as much of a journey for the parent, I could not agree more. So
True. Yeah, very interesting. Because I think we have been scammed into thinking that we are not capable of spending so much time with our kids, while at the same time, we really can't, because we don't have the village that we need to raise our kids without going insane. Because of course it's not healthy and it's not normal to be around your child 24/7, except it's a baby. I think
yeah,
it's pretty normal that your kid is spending time with family, friends, and everyone around. But most of us, we don't have this network of people like this. I like to call it mycelium, our social mycelium. We don't have that. So of course, if we decide to take our kids out of school or don't, or never even start bringing them there, it is a lot, of course. And I'm always in between, like, okay, I'm spending so much time with my son and I love it. And the other hand is like, okay, Do I have a private life? Am I my own person? I mean, he's 11 now. That's a different story. He's doing things on his own, and I'm sh- slowly getting back my life I never had, but that I now start to feel like, how do people, yeah, free time? What is that even? It's a crazy concept. So I think, yeah, the best thing if around all these expectations and fears is like, okay, if you have good friends that are supporting you, that is the best thing you can have. And for all the other things, I think it's like the fear before you're jumping into really, I don't know, cold water or something like this. This is just your monkey mind telling you all the reasons why this change cannot happen. But these are not valid reasons. I mean, this is all, you can figure it out. You don't have to be 24/7 there. You can find something that's in between, And all these expectations, I really struggled, and still I'm struggling with expectations, because society has some weird expectations of how our lives should look like.
Yeah, no kidding.
Whereby, yeah, and if you look at nature doesn't have so many expectations. Nature is just providing. So I guess what I see is that we are directing our energy, even our fearful energy, into some kind of, am I enough for the system? But do we even want that? Because if we just cut out all of that expectations that are coming from the system, and it's not easy, it's a long process. But if we just look the other way to nature, and there's nobody pushing us, then it's, of course, you have to work on yourself, blah, blah, blah. It's a long, long way. But you can actually differentiate between what is a real thing nature wants you to do and what is the unnatural system that is just keeping your monkey mind busy. And I think we are now at a point where more and more families are tending to nature instead of the unnatural system. And it's a movement, and it's going to be so much easier for our kids. And that's a nice thing as well. We are the ones who are like leading maybe new, it's not a new concept, but we are just going back to how humans are supposed to live. Maybe.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because these systems that have been in place are really not that old. I mean, not even 200 years.
True. So I think school is not even that normal, because when people are like, yeah, unschooling is an experiment. I don't really think so, because humanity lived like that for a pretty long time until they invented school. And it is like yesterday. I mean, so I think unschooling, homeschooling, this is the normal way to live, and school is the experiment.
Yeah. So can you define unschooling? What is the difference between unschooling and homeschooling?
So let's start with homeschooling. That pretty much looks to me, as an unschooling mom, I don't like school as an institution. But I'm taking everything that school is at home, and I'm doing this with my kids at home. So you're not only the mom, but also the teacher, which is weird to me. I'm not criticizing anyone who's doing it. It's just my point of view, how I see it and how I saw it in different families. So I would say you are actively educating your kids. That can be very nice, because you can be very, individual in your way of teaching them, presenting information, what kind of information, blah, blah, blah. So you have an active role in what is happening in your kid's brain. And you are actively working towards a goal, whereby in unschooling, the goal is to just exist and to do what makes you happy, and without any kind of interference, like, but kids your age should be doing this and that. They should be able to do blah, blah, blah. So this is not happening in unschooling. In unschooling, it's just you leave everything open to the kid. You're supporting your kid in every way you can and you want to. And it can look very, very different. I heard of unschooling families that have like 1 or 2 hours must learn time, so to say. And in my family, it looks like you're just doing whatever you want to feel like doing. I mean, it's your life, dude. And as long as you're a happy, healthy, funny, and everything else, then this is the way to go. And I think most of unschooling families I met, they've been reflecting a lot about what you learn in school is not necessarily what you need in life to succeed, to be happy. And I see a lot of unschooling families, including my family. What is the purpose of our existence here on this planet? It is for sure not to read by that and that age, to fulfill all these things that they teach you in school. And I think, on the other hand, I have a real problem with propaganda in school. So for me, unschooling is to leave all of that unnatural stuff out and just to, trying to let my son live like happily and yeah, just enjoy life a little bit, without all these unnecessary things. And he's learning a lot actually without that he knows that he's learning because it's called living. So
Yeah,
I think
right.
that's the main difference. Yeah. So I think that's the main difference that, you let go completely and just trust the process, or you are like interfering because you think you have something to do with the success of your kids, what you don't. You don't have anything to do with that from my
Right,
point of view.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's a very valid perspective, because when we become adults, we are completely in charge of our fates, regardless of how you were educated. It's still 100% up to you as far as what it is how you want to live your life, what you want to do, what you want to learn. And I think that the human experience is about learning. It's about expanding. It's about growth. And it doesn't just end at school. And I remember when I graduated from college, feeling so relieved that I was done with education and I never had to do any of that ever again. I was so relieved. And then I look back on that and I say, if I was relieved, it means I didn't want to do it. So I just spent, let's see, 18 years of my life, or 18 plus years of my life, doing a bunch of stuff that I didn't want to do. I mean, that's crazy to me that we are. And what's also insane to me is, like, especially now, like in the United States, it's almost like, it's quite sad to see, but there's fences and security guards. And I mean, it reminds me a little bit like a prison. It's quite scary to see how kids are kind of locked into this building all day. And I get it, we're trying to keep the kids safe. But what about that? What about putting a child in these buildings, locking them in these buildings for hours on end without their families, without the unconditional love of their parents, and yes, the imperfect love sometimes that comes through as a parent. Without that, what about that is natural? And what about that even actually mirrors the real world? I suppose you could say that, the one aspect that is mirrored is going to your job and sitting at a desk in the same building all day long. Maybe that's the world that they're trying to kind of beat into your brain when you're a child. But it is, when you look at it that way, which may be seen as pessimistic, but when you look at it that way, it's quite sad.
True. So true. And I'm sometimes wondering, even if, I mean, basically every parent I meet in my life or met in my life said on one point, I want my kids to have a better life than I did, or I want to change the future. They might change the future. They might change the world, blah, blah. But are they even capable of changing our world or even their own world if we are repeating it over and over again? And I mean, it's no coincidence, I think, that prisons and school look almost the same in every country. I mean, it's it is what it is. The facilities look the same. And I guess if school is the mirror for our life, how it's supposed to be in a couple of years when we're finally done with school, that's quite sad. And I'm wondering, all these parents out there that are suffering with their kids because school is not an ideal place to be, and they see their kids suffering and they think to themselves, this is the way it has to be. They are doing this to themselves as well. I mean, they are suffering as well. So it's, for me, somehow, yeah, I cannot really understand how you are torturing the whole family with a decision just because it doesn't fit in the normal modern society lifestyle to not educate your child at home. But I guess as a collective conscious, yeah, experiment or experience, maybe we need to go through that. I don't know, but I think the time is there to break that cycle of, repeating these cruel things to ourselves and our families. I think it's pretty interesting that people are not seeing their way out. I mean, all of them are talking about change and everything, but change happens in families. There's where the change is starting, where it needs to start. But people are afraid of taking that step. Yeah, this is what I get. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, no, and so in decentralized consciousness is all about internal responsibility, internal accountability, and internal power, right? So meaning that everything in our lives we accept responsibility for. A powerful tool set that is pretty commonly known is the law of attraction, and the law of attraction basically says that your beliefs are what you manifest in your experience. And I think that, this came in very strong for me when I listened to your podcast with Seb. I think that the systems that we have set up today are a result of our internal state on an individual and on a collective level. So I believe that because there's something deep within us that is fearful of so many things that needs to be cleared. All of these fears, and it could be, like you said, it could be monkey brain. But for whatever the cause, we have all of these fears that have led us to outsourcing various aspects of our lives and not being confident in our ability to go out in the world and confident to know and understand and have faith that whatever is happening or going to happen in this experience, not only is it happening for us, but we don't have to control it. We can just be along for the ride and enjoy it. And I think the humanity on a greater level is really evolving. And actually, I think that the kids are the ones that are leading the way. I think that the kids are coming into this planetary matrix, if you will, and they're saying, I'm not scared. I don't want to do this anymore. And there's something energetically that they're telling us that says, this is ridiculous. We can try something else. And as you had mentioned earlier, there's an element of leadership to it. And yeah, it can be scary to go against these collective, these collective fears and to clear those within yourself. But once you do, we can really set a very bright example for the rest of us and begin to ensure and inspire the internal state for other people. And to me, this is really the basis for leadership in higher consciousness. It's not about, this is my position, these are my roles, and you need to follow my vision. But instead, it is being willing to go against the grain and being willing to shine a brighter light as an example for other people. And in doing so, other people will come to you and they will see that light and they will say, how did you do that? It's exactly what you're doing with your podcast. You're doing something that you feel called to share. You feel inspired to share with the world. And when you do that, people like myself, people that are listening here, people that are listening to your podcast, they come and they want to know how you're doing it because they see the joy that you're experiencing. They see the confidence and how it's so different from what they believe to be true. That to me is higher consciousness leadership, I think.
Mm. I like that a lot. I'm going to write that down. Love it. Yes, I think leadership looks different today and will look different in the future. At least this is what my perception is, because leadership used to be something very physical, I guess, and it's changing. And as you said, our kids are leading the way because for example, my kid, I could never bring up the bullshit my parents did with me. There's no chance. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
So that's for sure. So, and I think leadership, as you said, is just let your own light shine as bright as possible. And if you're in tune with yourself, with your path, whatever we want to call it, then you are the light for everyone else to follow, not following in terms of the herd is following the next, I don't know, leader. It's more like spreading the light, and we are all little lights, and the more we spread our light and the stronger our lights are, the better it is for everyone else around. And I had a conversation about that we're so many of us now doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and most of us are very far away from each other locally, but it makes sense because we need to have the light spread around the globe and or wherever, you know what I mean, whatever theory you're following. So I guess it's nice that there are more and more parents being challenged by their kids not accepting any kind of disrespectful bullshit, because then you're forced to change. And I see that in a lot of parents. They are, for example, a friend of mine, she was like, there's a very famous book in Germany, How to Teach Your Kid to Sleep. And it's basically abuse your kid mentally through, not responding until it falls asleep because it's too exhausted to cry for help. And I met a friend of mine, and she was like, yeah, I tried it. Really, I tried it. I tried to ignore the kid until it stops crying and falls back into sleep at night. But she said it didn't work out. The kid was just so angry with her, and it's a baby, but a very small kid, definitely, trying to sleeping on his own. So I guess, the old days are counted. And I think it's beautiful that more and more people are not afraid of being different than the average person out there, but doing exactly what they are feeling that they're called to do. I think it's lovely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, if we can, I want to get deeper into your personal experience with unschooling. So there's kind of two parts to this question. So pragmatically, what have you and your son been learning? And then also emotionally, what have you guys been learning together, and how have you guys grown?
Mm-hmm. So I guess let's start with a pragmatical thing. I don't have no schedule, no plans or anything like that. If he wants to learn something, he's just doing it. There's no discussion about it. If I feel like he needs to know something, for example, how to drive a car, he's not the kid who is jumping into the car, let me drive. He's not like that. But I think it's quite important that you just know how to drive a car in any kind of emergency. Just imagine we're on a camping trip, nobody's there, just you and me, and I'm having I don't know what, 2 broken legs, and then what? So I need him to be able to drive my car. This is something I'm not like pressuring him into, but I'm just explaining to him, hey, this is important, let's do that. But apart from these very day-to-day things, he's just living. He's really just following his passions and interests. That means, for example, he likes to do mixed martial arts. So I'm driving him to town 2 or 3 times a week so he can train with the others. And of course, he's showing me a lot of stuff at home, and he's following some YouTube gurus about mixed martial arts. He's into Minecraft, so of course he's researching a lot of stuff when it comes to different codes, mods. I have no clue what this stuff is. Yeah, so I guess it's just what is in front of you. And we traveled a lot when he was a little bit younger, a couple of years. And that was beautiful because he needed to learn different kind of languages, not of course in a very deep way, but superficial, to be able to talk to everyone around. And I guess traveling is for me the best thing to teach your kid what is happening in the world. How do humans behave in different cultural, complex, I don't know, I like to call it mycelia again. This is what I do. Like, we're just living really. And emotionally, I would say this is the bigger part because, or maybe the more interesting part, because everything is somehow connected to emotions. And what I learned, and I think this is what I'm not teaching him that, but this is something that is influencing him, because when I had my baby, I was quite young, 23, and I've been a single mom right from the beginning until now. And it does something to you because I was still studying. I had no job, no career, nothing. And I really had the feeling like having a kid that is exactly like me is very interesting, first of all, and is really pushing you, or it pushed me to go above and beyond and to get rid of my fears. And I had a lot of them, and to just do whatever I really feel like I need to do. That includes traveling, that includes moving to another country, emerging in that culture, and these kind of things. And he saw me growing, I mean, of course, our parents grew up with us on the side as well. But I try to make this as transparent as possible because I think he can learn, and it's a benefit for him that I'm very authentic with my shortcomings. I mean, we are all human beings. And I see so many parents trying to be perfect and to trick their kids to believe into they are perfect. Yeah, but I can't do that. That's, first of all, a lot of work, and my kid would never buy it. So emotionally, I think I went from being very insecure, very, yeah, maybe stupid, because I didn't really know anything about this world except the places I've been growing up. And that's it, basically. And he saw me transitioning from student to freelancer who's traveling the world and who has a great career, going through multiple very shitty times emotionally, um, working myself out of that with my kid, of course, by my side, and trying very, very unusual things to grow in very different areas of my life, not only career-wise or emotionally, but also spiritual and all these things. And I'm never hiding something from him. We have very open-minded talks about psychedelics, for example. And I think, yeah, the best part is maybe that I don't try to hide anything. It is what it is. And sometimes my parents, they are like, yeah, this has a major impact on your child. He is forced to live your lifestyle. And I always say, yeah, this is basically what parenting is like. You have kids and you force your lifestyle upon them until they are old enough to decide what's the best for them. this is how we do it. And just because someone doesn't like my lifestyle, it's not bad parenting. And we are also talking about that because he knows that most of the people we know live very different from how we do it. So he's just super, super tough. And I would say I enjoy because I'm learning way much more from him than he's like the other way around. I mean, I'm basically the kid trying to grow up, and he's very calm and he's very sure of his way. And I think this is something school takes away from you most of the times. You're losing sight of what your soul is really communicating. And he doesn't have that. He's still pure and he still has a great connection to whatever we want to call it. Let's call it the universe. And it's nice to see because in the end, this is it made me see that the world has so many more layers than what I thought the world is made of. So it's a roller coaster, but I love it. And now he's transitioning from kid to teen. He's like pre-teenish somehow. Very, very interesting. So yeah, I love it.
So does he find that when he interacts with other children his age that there is a difference in maturity there?
Of course, he doesn't like them
Mm-hmm.
because he's always like, yeah, they're boring. And most of the times they're also afraid of adults or parents. And if these kids are over at our house, they're not looking me into my eyes or anything like that. Communication with them is way more difficult than communicating with unschooled kids. You can just tell them, food is here, stay safe, whatever. If something is wrong, let me know. And like these school kids, they are almost every time much more afraid of me. And I mean, most of the times I don't even know, I've never met them in my life. And so he's not really interested in that because he doesn't want his friends to have like two experiences in one, because they are acting very different in front of me. And as soon as I'm out of sight, I hear them changing their communication and so on, and my kid hates that. So he normally tends to hang out with older kids or unschooled kids in his age. But like the normie kids, yeah, it's just too boring, he says.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of the greatest concerns with homeschooling. I mean, every single person that I have mentioned, hey, I'm interested in homeschooling, they say, but what about socialization? I mean, that's like the number one thing that comes up, and I've discussed it on other podcasts as well. And it just blows my mind that people don't think one step further, which again, let's think about what the real world is like. I'm not going to the grocery store or gym and saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody who was born in this age range so that I can communicate with them. No, I'm talking with people. It doesn't matter how old they are. And, homeschooling and schooling mirror this because they're mirroring life. Their kid is coming to the bank with me, or they're going to the grocery store with me. And, if they want something off the high shelf, then they go and ask for help. And I mean, there's just so many things that you do not get to experience when there's just the one authority figure at the head of the classroom. And actually, I got a really funny story. So this weekend we were at the pool, and there are lifeguards at the pool, and we have there's a little water slide there. And so when I was there, this was our first time at this particular pool. So I went up to, I was carrying my son, and I asked the lifeguard, I said, hey, what's the rules as far as him going down the slide? Does he require a life jacket? Does he, need to be a certain height? Any of this kind of stuff. And this is our community area, so it's not like a public pool or anything. So the rules are relatively lax. And, and the lifeguard ended up saying, Well, you don't really, you basically, you get to accept your own liability, which, of course, I'm a Bitcoiner. I appreciate that. I want to accept my own liability. Thank you. But I thought about that more, and I realized that this is just a kid. I mean, this lifeguard is probably 18 years old at the most. And here I am. I asked the lifeguard this question because, first of all, I know that I can make sure he is not going to drown. I can be at the bottom of the slide and catch him so he can get to the edge of the pool, or I can go down with him and make sure that he can get to the edge. I know that he'll be fine. However, I was so scared to be have the whistle blown at me for doing something I wasn't supposed to do, even though I was like twice the age of this kid. I had to ask first. And, as I thought about it, it was less that I was afraid to be yelled at or have a whistle blown on me. It was less about that aspect, but more I was afraid that everybody else would see me get in trouble. I mean, how crazy is that? That is straight out of school, because we are honed in school that when one person gets yelled at, and this is just kind of by design, this just happens naturally. Maybe it's part of the original design of school, but when we get in trouble at school, it's embarrassing to be called out by a teacher, and it's embarrassing when we're caught doing some behavior that is quote unquote against the status quo. I mean, and I'm still dealing with this stuff even as an adult. It's insane.
I feel you. Yeah, I guess we all have that. I mean, some of us a little bit more, some less. But I think the process that to reverse that, I'd like to call it deschooling, because this is also some kind of, I throw it in this expectations pool. You're not expected to get in trouble, an expectation, for example. And to be honest, I had the same thing. I was afraid to, that someone sees me breaking the rules or anything like that. And I still have a little bit of that, but not so much anymore, because all this time in my head, it was completely clear that the average Joe out there is just stupid and has nothing to do with my life. And even if they disagree with what I do, I couldn't care less. But to have that emotionally somehow imported into your, everyday emotions, that is something else. It takes a lot of time to deschool and to be a lot of times in these situations, because only if you are in these situations, you are really learning where your feelings and your intuition, where there's a lack of synchronicity in these kind of things, because there's an external force manipulating, even after all these years, your emotions about a certain situation. But it's very, very interesting, because every time we're going through it, I think it's getting more and more funnier. Every time I'm in some kind of situation where I feel like I should not be doing what I'm doing, I'm afraid somebody sees what I'm doing, makes me stronger, because I just enjoy the process of me being even able to see that. Because just imagine how many parents out there, they are not even aware of why they feel, how they feel, and these kind of things. So that's crazy.
Yeah, and as parents, I don't think we are, or we have been, up until this generation. It's starting to get better, but I don't think we have given enough credence to the emotional body as much as we should. In fact, the other day, my son and I were playing pickleball, and just hitting the pickleball back and forth. And what I explained to him, because I was practicing it myself at the time while we were playing, is I said, you have to feel the ball. And when I did that, when I really felt the ball and the paddle in my hand, and I felt the emotion of the actions that I was going through, my body just did what it needed to do. It hit the ball when it needed to hit the ball. It sent it in the direction that it wanted to send it in the direction too. And this is actually something that I've struggled with for much of my life, is what I call overthinking, where my mind is constantly thinking, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? I think so. Maybe. Is this right? Is this right? Just this constant circle of, and I remember when I was probably 16, I had a job working for an excavating company, and one of the bosses there said, you don't think about the machine as you're driving, you feel it. And it's the same exact way when you're driving a car. You're not constantly thinking about going through the motions of, okay, now I got to put my foot on the brake, now I got to put my blinker on. No, you're feeling, oh, I'm turning, putting on the blinker now. Oh, I'm feeling how, I need to go a little bit faster. So I'm then, how does my body respond to that emotion? And so it was recently that I kind of discovered that everything is emotions. And actually I had a friend of mine who is also working on a higher consciousness educational system. He laid out a really interesting model to me that's so simple, and I'm curious what you think of it. Is so instead of the old system, which was basically the content itself, what are the facts, and then some skills work as well. So it's like, as long as you know the facts, then you can implement the skills. And then the emotions really didn't even have a place. In fact, they only had a place really in the guidance counselor's office. There's no course on telling us how to use our emotions or use our intuition, even though it's an integral part of the human experience. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So when we flip that on its head and we say the emotions are actually the guiding principle of our lives. So we replace emotions at the top, understanding our emotions. And you don't even have to know why you're feeling the thing as much as you just need to be so familiar with it, then you know what to do with it. Is it fear-based? Probably not going to take action here. Is it curiosity, excitement-based? Okay, now I'm feeling like I'm intuitively driven to do something here. This is good. And then, of course, you have the emotions of playing sports, being athletic, the emotion of operating a vehicle, all of this. So emotions, then you move down into the skills. So the operations, like I said, and then the facts. And the facts seem like they're ever changing anyway, right? So history books new things keep getting discovered. History books keep evolving. Physics theories keep evolving. All of these facts continue to change. So it's like, why are we spending so much time memorizing this stuff when we should be just learning how to operate in the world so that we can discover how the things will change?
True. I like it a lot because I tell my kid always to act up on his excitement. And yeah, that's this typical conversation about is your kid missing out on any kind of stuff at school? And as you said, everything is evolving. The stuff I learned in school is not even valid anymore. I was prepared for a future that never came. So why not living in the exact moment you are in? And that is based, for me at least, on my emotions. And I really like to make sure that my kid is in tune with himself and that he knows what different kind of emotions mean. And it's nice to see how kids develop certain fears if they are not in school. I would say way less fears around a lot of stuff, first of all. And secondly, it's not that kind of fear like, something bad is about to happen. It's more mixed with excitement, fear, and it's showing you the way fear instead of ruining your life fear. You know what I mean? So it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Because fear is telling us something. Every emotion is telling you something, but when you can be comfortable being scared, then you can figure out what's causing it, and you can go deeper into that to the point where you can turn it into excitement, basically. I think that a lot of fear is based in the unknown. And there are a lot of people in the critical thinking, high rationality space who will say that you can rationalize your way out of fear, which you definitely can. But it's my understanding, and from my experience, the more that we can sit with fears and understand them from an emotional level instead of trying to hide from them through action, the quicker they go away. And oftentimes this does lead to a deeper rational understanding. So for instance, if I feel into this fear that I'm not going to be a good enough dad, being at home with my son, yeah, okay, so what I feel is this nervousness that I might cause him some harm, like some kind of trauma, right? But at the same time, I'm doing it from a place where I am aware of those emotions. So when I do make a mistake, and I can be authentic with him, and I can tell him, hey, I messed up here. I was feeling a lot of anger. I was feeling a lot of fear. And because of this emotion sets, I was not able to be authentic with you. And, you had also mentioned, like with your son, it's like this generation won't tolerate it anyway. They'll call you out. And that's such an amazing part of human evolution. So.
True. And you know what I really like? The fear of failing our kids. I think everyone has it. Doesn't matter, unschooling, homeschooling, regular school. We all have that. And it's important to fail our kids. This is building a little bit of resilience, first of all. Secondly, we cannot not fail our kids. It's impossible. We are human beings. And it's important to do the right kind of mistakes, to fail in a beautiful way, as you said, very authentic. And I think since I understood that he is learning from my failure as much as he's learning from me being very good at stuff, it's super important. It's just how society made us, value failure. Not at all, to be honest, but failure is something very beautiful. So I think for everyone out there feeling like failing your kids has something to do with how you educate them, that's not the case. We are failing them anyway. But failing is something very beautiful, and we should just accept it, because I don't know how it went down in your life, but in my life, the very deep times that I felt like I'm failing myself, my life, my whatever, were the times that really shaped me and made me a way better human being. So I guess if we talk about fear, I love fear. I think it's beautiful. I really started to fall in love with all these negative emotions, because these are our teachers, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty clear to me that this emotional guidance system that we are imbued with at birth is like the critical component to life, and we've just been ignoring it and pretending like it, I don't know, like it needs to be pushed away or something. And wow, it's so cool to hear your journey and how you're using it and helping to guide your child. So I kind of have another couple of pragmatic questions for you that come up for me, and also get they're questions that get posed to me when I talk about homeschooling, or specifically unschooling, with other people, which is how does an unschooled child fit into the world as an adult? Because, for instance, like somebody sent me this video, or showed me this video, where a child was unschooled, and they were basically complaining. They were saying, well, I was unschooled, and yes, I feel like I know a lot of things, but I get out into the quote unquote workforce, I can't work a regular job. And I think I know how you're going to answer it, but I am curious your perspective on all that.
So my argument is always, I went to school and I don't fit in. I never fit in, and I will never fit in. I don't care, because I don't want to fit in a society that is mentally sick. I think a lot of people have Stockholm syndrome. They're very much in love with their abusers, and to fit in that clown world is not my goal, not for my child, not even my dog. So I guess not fitting in is something very beautiful, first of all. And secondly, gives us the chance to implement parallel systems for the people who are not fitting in with the clown world and who want to live somehow differently. So every time someone is like, yeah, your child is not going to fit in, exactly this is why I'm doing it. Because I don't want him to be as stupid as you are. And that's not something, I'm not mean, and I'm not looking down on anyone that is fitting into society. If you're lucky, you're even happy with it, so that's cool for you. But I guess I'm happy that I don't fit in. I mean, it's not a compliment to fit in from my point of view, at least not in the society that we know today. There are a lot of societies in the jungle, wherever, where I would love to fit in because these people are cool. But the general society we see today, I just hope that if you don't fit in, you're happy with not fitting in, because it's a compliment.
Yep, exactly. Because we have a fear that if our child isn't able to sit at a desk and do paperwork or sit on a computer and do tasks as he is told all day long, that he is just inherently not visible to society. And I just think that could not be further from the truth. I mean, it might be that he is not valuable in the same way, right? Because society places value so differently in the old construct. It's this high time preference construct, and this is, I think, why we're so interested in Bitcoin, is because the future that it builds is one where people's authenticity creates value that can be valued, and authenticity to me basically means that I'm doing what I want to do when I want to do it, without an attachment to the end result, because it's the act of actually doing it and experiencing it in the present, and not working towards something, constantly feeling like, okay, I'm going to work for the next 40 years so that I can then retire, and that I can then do what I want on a daily basis because then I have enough money. Instead, it is, no, I'm going to build something. Like, I'm a carpenter also, so I want to build this thing because I think it would be fun to build. And this is what I want to see when I step back from the project. I have a vision for what I want to build, but it's the act of actually building it that is so fun. It's running the saws. It's listening to music as I work. It's listening to podcasts as I work, and lifting things, moving things around. And that, that's just one example, but the process, it's so different. Loving a process versus chasing an end result. And I think what we are so deluded by in today's society is the end result of money. The end result of money is all that matters. And it's frustrating. Like, I don't have a great relationship with money, energetically, at least. It's so difficult to try to merge this behavior, this lifestyle of authenticity and money right now. And I need to realize that it's all coming from within. So I need to once again hold myself accountable to my mindset of accountability on the deepest level, and understand that something here is not fully integrated, but this is where I'm trying to be. And I hope that I can mirror that for my kids too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you. I really feel you in that one. A good friend of mine, we sometimes have these, let's call it meetups with the help of nature's medicine. And the topic was exactly that. How can we be so authentic? And he's a podcaster too. And make enough money for our kids to be just okay in how we are living right now. And we came to the conclusion somehow that this is just where we are right now. This is somehow a process, and we are in the middle of it. The more we share with others, the better, because the solutions are on the way, so to say. It's not that we have to have it figured out right now how to combine these things, because I think we're in a huge time of shift anyway. And as you said, like, you are loving the process. And I learned to love the process of looking into this gap between authentic output and making enough money and being okay with money and all these things and having a good relationship with it. But money is, on the other hand, not a very natural source. It's not like nature is giving out money. So it's maybe not natural for us to integrate that into our existence, in our being, feeling, whatever, in our complex universe, in our own universe. You know what I mean? I think it's a very, very interesting topic. And I meet so many people that are like, I love Bitcoiners because they are so open-minded with the rest of what is human experience and existence. And then I meet a lot of hippies where I live that hate money, like really hate money. They don't want to have anything to do with money. And they are really living a good life anyway. And I'm pretty much in between, because I don't hate money. It's a tool for me. But at the same time, I see nature is not giving out the Benjamins to me. It's just what it is. So I think we're at a point, and I really hope that maybe one day we don't need money anymore, or we have special, maybe we just have regions where this is not a topic. At least for me, that would be really cool to just not think about money, because I think in my daily life I would never Bitcoin is a very cool thing because it leads you to so many other rabbit holes, and it's really a very interesting kind of money. Let's not forget about that there is a nice solution, but nothing is forever. First of all, we don't know how long Bitcoin will exist. We don't know what will happen to it. There are so many crazy things happening in the world. I can imagine everything and anything. So this, money and authenticity. It's a crazy topic. And to what conclusion or in what process are you? What is your state at the moment?
My personal state with money, you mean?
Yeah, like feeling wise. I don't need to know your bank account.
No, yeah, and of course. Let me check. For me, it's very split. When I check with my emotions on money, I still have the parts of myself, the identities of myself, which are attached to the fiat system and the high time preference and all the stuff that goes along with it. But then I have this beautiful bright orange future, which Bitcoin creates. Also, one where I'm not attached to the stuff. I'm not attached to the societal expectations. And for me, the element that I am missing is faith. Mm-hmm. I have a conceptual belief that the universe is giving me everything that I need when I need it, but I don't feel it. I don't have trust that that is actually happening. And so I think that's why I still hang on to the old fiat identities and some of those old fiat fears. And so it's almost like, and it's I guess it's just my journey. It's like what I'm doing here in Decentralized Consciousness and putting together my own podcast interviews and writing articles. I am following authenticity to kind of test the waters. I'm like dipping my toe in the water to see, okay, I'm doing things that I genuinely want to do. These are things that I'm passionate about. Now, what about the money element? Will I get the money? Will the money come? And you know, in ways it definitely has, to be honest. Like there have been, it's not like I'm making a living, but people have donated, people have supported the podcast. But I think the thing that I fail to see, or maybe not fail to see, but the thing that I have to look deeper to see is that the value that I'm seeing, that I am providing value to people, because I've had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, this was really valuable. I'm loving what you're doing. And no, it hasn't. That's not the money necessarily. That's not coming back to me in the form of a medium of exchange, but just getting the feedback to know from someone else that, hey, what you're doing, even though you're not trying to, maybe I'm trying to make money a little bit, I guess, but even though I am doing it in a way that genuinely excites me and where I can be as authentic as I can, and I can get feedback that says, hey, you are giving me value. I value sitting and listening to you have these conversations. That is super impactful for me. It's super inspiring because I know that in a world, in this non-dualistic world, I guess, between Bitcoin versus fiat, I know that that I will be supported, and the money will come from those who want to give it to me, and the food will come from those in my community who want to support me, or let's say in my own garden, if I feel inspired to create, grow my own food, which I am feeling like doing as well. I'm not doing it yet, but I'm feeling like beginning that research as well. So yeah, it is it feels so messy right now. And I think that I think it's kind of like the ultimate manifestation of a collective consciousness who is very scared. And when we try to approach money energetically, we're approaching a layer that is so, oh man, it's so far out from the base issue that trying to solve the money problems themselves, it's like going to the top of the pyramid and trying to use a chisel to knock it down from the top, where instead the actual issues are at the base. And if we're trying to disassemble this thing, we should be working at the base of it instead of at the very top.
True. Yeah, I feel the same. That's nice how you said it. Because most of the times when I talk to people about money, consciousness, and these kind of things, they tell me that they have the feeling that all they are feeling is not necessarily their feeling, but a very collective approach or experience, memory of money, and how everything is connected to that. So I guess as we had this very evil money system for quite some time now, it's very similar to school. We need to work ourselves out of it, and we can't do it alone. It's something that humanity, or at least a part of humanity, is doing. And I think we're just going with the flow. We are right in the process, and we should enjoy it to see that we are there while the basic experience is changing that much, because it is. I think it's a very beautiful thing to be there, to witness what is happening, and to be part of the change as well, and to be part of the solution. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And you had said earlier, I don't want to fit in. And I think that is so beautiful. I don't think that that is what we are designed to do, to be honest. I don't think we are designed to fit in. It is quite clownish to think that we're all designed to be the same, you know? Gosh, on a spiritual level, the universe is splitting itself into all these different individual pieces of consciousness to experience itself in many, many, many different ways. And it's unnatural to think that we should all be striving to be like one another. You know, it is about individuality. And if you want to be an individual, you have to be willing to express yourself as such.
True. And I think the more people are doing this, exactly expressing themselves, the easier it is. I think we're at the beginning of a huge shift. And of course, it's a lot on our shoulders. I'm not saying that we are responsible or anything like that. Of course, we are all responsible. Everyone is, and it's not like we two are the only ones working on change. Not at all. But in general, it's a nice thing, and it's a lot for everyone, I guess. But to not be alone and to be able to express that, and as you said, you value the feedback that your listeners bring to you. And I have the very same. People are coming to me and telling me it changed their life. Now they're confident to take their kids out of school, or not even starting to bring there, and these kind of things. And it's
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 amazing.
awesome. It's amazing, really. But it's not paying my bills. And I don't know. I've been thinking about this money attraction thing back and forth so many times. It's so many different layers. But I don't like the people who invented the money system. So how can I attract something purely if I'm obviously not okay with it? I could say, okay, I'm only attracting Bitcoin. Hilariously, I'm attracting way more Bitcoin donations than fiat donations. I think I had one fiat donation, and everything else for my podcast was Bitcoin. So this is working better than attracting fiat money for sure. But for all the people out there trying to attract money and these kind of things, we have a dark history with money, and it's not so easy to jump out of that as an individual being and saying like, okay, now I'm cleared. I've cured all my things. My chakras are all in alignment. Now I'm ready for the million. Is this even healthy? Because in nature, I rarely see excess amount of hoarding stuff. Not even, you know what I mean? So maybe we have to change the discussion about money entirely, and to take it on another level of consciousness and say, okay, this is something that's a story we all create together. We are the little pieces. But it's a crazy thing for sure. It's a crazy thing. And I'm very interested in money, not because I want to become a millionaire or anything like that, but just because it's a very interesting form of expression. And secondly, it's a very interesting form of shaping a society, maybe even. So, and if we educate our kids very differently, I think, yeah, it won't be so hard for the ones coming after us, like our kids, our grandkids, to be easy with that topic. I think it's it will be much easier for them, of course, because we are going through it right now. Even if we cannot solve it 100% for us, we're definitely clearing the way for our kids and grandkids.
Yep. Just like we've been saying, it's just being a guiding light, being as authentic as we can with our kids, and setting an example for them for authenticity with around us too. So, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect all the time. Doesn't mean that you're even going to be authentic all the time, but being willing to go within. And I think that's what's also so amazing about children too, is they've known you their entire lives from the moment that they were born. And the relationship that you build with them is so based on unconditional love from that very moment. When you look into their eyes, it's like you just have like the bestest friend you could ever possibly have, and yeah, there's something really amazing about being able to share experience with people and to be able to be so true to yourself, to who you really are with another person. It's really quite amazing.
It is. And it's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because like you said, I mean, they will call you out, and it's part of your willingness to be called out too, because in generations past, if parents and if children would dissent to their parents, they would get physically harmed, and we've come a long way from that, and now parents are starting to listen to their children. And I think that there's a lot of positive signs for that, even in the mainstream culture. Some of it is still being figured out with, like the helicopter parenting and that kind of thing. But it's still on the right track. And once we can let go of all this fear kind of stuff that's going on in our parenting, it's just going to keep getting brighter and brighter. And yeah, it starts with us. It starts with us as the parents, for sure.
True. I think it's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Okay. Well, we have about 5 minutes left here. So I think to wrap up, let's first talk about where people can find you if you're on Nostr, Twitter, your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on Nostr, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have no website at all. It is what it is. But Twitter, mostly Twitter and Nostr.
Okay. I'll put those links in the show notes. And then finally, do you have any parting sentiments for the people listening today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just listen to your heart, your intuition, because we can lie all the time, but lying to yourself is, first of all, it's an interesting process. And secondly, at least nobody else lied to you. I think a lot of parents don't trust themselves as much as they should trust themselves. And it's, I think, caused in school because we are not good enough. And if they tell you you are not capable of raising, educating your child, it is because they raised you and not your parents. So I guess getting back to a more humane upbringing of our kids includes to be very good to yourself and to love yourself, honor yourself, care for yourself, and to just trust yourself. And even if it's hard, you're not alone. Reach out to other unschooling families, homeschooling families. Reach out to people who are producing podcasts about it, because I think we're always happy to hear your story. And I think feeling weak, feelings of fear or any kind of so-called negative emotions along the way, try to enjoy them, because
Yeah.
they are just as important as the excitement. And that's it.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was such a fun conversation, and I look forward to coming on your show in the coming weeks too.
Yes, I'm excited as well.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Forward. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, you have a great evening, and you say hi to your son.
We'll do that. Thank you so much.
Much love.